Originally a railway station in the heart of Paris back in 1900, now a museum, Orsay invites its public to travel back in time, to the period in French history from 1848 to 1914. 30 years after its grand opening, it is one of the most visited museums in the world. Each and every day, in order to create the unique emotional experience encountered when facing a great work of art, Orsay sets its wheels in motion, mobilizing its human resources so that the beauty of its collection and the secrets of its history emerge from the wings and take center stage. In one of the museum's empty rooms, one of the biggest exhibitions of the year is in the making.
For the bust, how does the base fit into the interior here? It's a square stand like this that will hang over the edge just a bit. It sticks out? Yes, that way the square breaks the circle.
Orsay plans on reviving the Second Empire period in spectacular fashion. For now, the Imperial festivities are no more than a dream in the minds of the exhibition's curators and set designer. But Napoleon III's reign, highly criticized at the time, will soon be brought to life in vibrant color, highlighting the splendor and euphoria of a bygone era.
Okay, in any case, let's talk about that point again later. Oh yeah, that changes everything.
While awaiting the arrival of the official portraits of the Emperor and Empress, some of the museum's lost treasures are being brought back into the light. These giant decorative wallpapers, pulled up from storage, enter into the dance on their way to the exhibition's rooms. The great artwork ball has begun.
Let's start with this one. It's the smallest. We'll take it down there. When we get to the Statue of Liberty, we'll set it down on the ground. Everyone get in place. We need mousse and cushions. I'll go get 4 cushions from downstairs. You can already take those 2 over there if you want.
The jewels of the Second Empire briefly cross paths with pieces from the permanent collection. Heading to their own showrooms, they are renewed and refreshed every week with works kept in storage. Hanging the paintings requires a very precise choreography, especially when the frame alone weighs 300 kilos.
Stand her up. That's good, that's good. Is it good? Lift it up a bit higher. Down a bit. Yeah, I think you should come down slowly. Slowly. Okay, we're on them. It's good.
$10,000 visitors per day, 3.5 million per year. The fabulous wealth of the Orsay Museum is theirs to behold the moment they come through the doors. Over 100,000 works, shown in part in the 66 different rooms of the museum. Orsay provides a unique opportunity to explore 19th century art with unfettered curiosity. The first visual shock is a tall order, the decadence of the Romans. There's much to see in this gigantic historical painting, as such works are called here. The painting actually has two stories. The first is that told by the painter Thomas Couture in 1847. It took him 3 years of work to paint and depict the society of his time. It's a scathing critique of the moral decadence of the monarchy that was coming to an end, when the ruling class was discredited by a series of scandals. The other story is that of the painting's place in Orsay's collection. 30 years ago, the painting left the Louvre Museum, crossing the Seine to find a new home here, in the middle of the Great Hall, the central artery of the building. From its beginnings, Orsay has strived to show the tremendous breadth of artistic creation from 1848 to 1914. Guided by that principle, the museum's initial collection was drawn from those of other great French museums: the Louvre, the Jeu de Paume, where the Impressionists had been housed, the Luxembourg Museum, and the National Modern Art Museum, the Centre Pompidou. The collection was quickly enriched by donations, as well as by the unearthing of many a masterpiece from different regional museums.
You can see here all the textures that are magnified by the richness of the tones, and then the large format that, from the photographer's point of view, allows his work to rival the pictorial model.
The museum remains very active in purchasing new works. Meeting on a regular basis, a committee decides, via secret ballot, whether or not to buy various pieces proposed by Orsay's curators. Today, they are focusing on a manuscript, an original artifact dating from 1920. It contains a precious list of all the people who contributed financially to the purchase by the Louvre of the great painting by Gustave Courbet, The Painter's Studio.
There's a veritable cadavre exquis of names in this manuscript. Bonnard, Matisse, Durand, Lobre, Othon Fries, Albert Moreau, Paul Verrat, Fromont-Maurice, Gustave Eiffel, musicians such as Gabriel Fauré, Arthur Rubinstein. In short, it's pretty impressive to see the number of people who came together for this subscription via this document. Émile Bernard made the following remark in it: "The work is a masterpiece, one of Courbet's best. The Louvre must come to possess it at any price. Masterpieces are never too expensive."
Opera at the museum. Orsay makes a point of putting the spotlight on other forms of artistic expression. Today's rehearsal is for an upcoming special event. Not surprisingly, the manuscript was purchased after a unanimous vote by the Acquisitions Commission. As for Courbet's painting, The Artist's Studio, it was purchased by the Louvre thanks to that 1920 crowdfunding effort. Yet, having been painted in 1854, its home is now here in the 19th century collection at Orsay. And the museum has in fact recently decided to honor it with a well-deserved restoration. The restoration of Courbet's L'Atelier du Peintre is absolutely historic. It is a shining example of the overall preservation and restoration policy established by the museum's president, Guy Cocheval. We've been able to establish a program here that allows us to revive certain historical paintings that have never before been in presentable condition. It's a true privilege to practice our craft. It's a job that allows us to go beyond the mere contemplation of artworks. We become intimate with the artist's technique and the materials he used. Here with Courbet, we can appreciate the creamy aspect of his paint, very oil-based. And we can see the fluidity of his brushstrokes. There's something very sensual about them. That's a real pleasure to see up close. With the painter's studio, Courbet has used his canvas to create an artist's manifesto. Placing himself in the center of the frame, he explained in his own words the political choices in his work. The world, he says, has come into my workshop to be painted. On the right, there are the virtuous, friends, workers, art enthusiasts. On the left, those of the other trivial world, the wealthy, those who exploit, those who are exploited, people who feed upon death. In the museum, the back and forth movement of the collection never stops. If they take down one giant historical painting, it is just to hang another, and in this case, one that will soon be renovated. There is a protocol in place for descending into the museum's storage area. There is just one staff member who controls the use of the freight elevator, limiting access to curators and those assigned to move artworks. It is a site that's guarded like a treasure, and a treasure trove it is. Almost 70,000 works are sheltered here. The trap door, the only possible passageway between underground storage and the great hall above for Orsay's biggest paintings. This particular one measures 4 meters by 6.5 meters and will be lifted up 17 meters in a movement that is managed to the smallest of increments.
Let's unhook the plastic wrap on this side and then roll it up.
Laurent says we need something to pull nails. Or a screwdriver. Yeah, it's stapled on.
Just pull on it. They'll come out by themselves.
The staples aren't all the way in, but still, I can't get them to come out. I broke a nail. It's no big deal, but maybe we could leave the staples instead of trying to pull them all out. Underneath the plastic wrap, a gigantic piece of art awaits its resurrection. Painted by Auguste Glaise in 1851, it has almost never seen the light of day. Purchased at the time by the government, it was sent to the city of Autun in Burgundy, where it was quickly forgotten, rolled up and put in the attic of the municipal museum. Its original colors have disappeared and its varnish has yellowed. The painting was in such a state that Orsay could not display it at its opening in 1986. The first step, to mount it again on a frame, has been accomplished. Now the goal is to give to these women of Gaulle, the title of the work, a chance to express their initial intention, the history of French national origins, a subject dear to Napoleon III. Everything seems to be all right. Everything looks good. The damage that you see corresponds to problems with inappropriate handling and storage. There are a lot of waves here because it had been poorly mounted at one time. There's a tear here, but the team that got it on its frame now did a great job. The painting has responded really well. Now it's up to us to do the most beautiful work possible and as little as possible on the painting itself. Time to get to work. Today is a day for musical chairs, for well-choreographed dance steps. Paintings are taken down from the permanent exhibition's walls, having been chosen to take part in the Second Empire show by its 3 curators. They are loaded on dollies that the workers call slackers, in spite of their constant movement from room to room. Today's choices: a work by Cézanne portraying the artist Achille Empereur, and a second one depicting another of his friends, Émile Zola, painted by Manet. A few surprises have been added today, pure embodiments of imperial exuberance, including this bénitier, basin for holy water, whose brilliant appearance is misleadingly light. Made of 53 separate pieces of crystal, simply interlocked together, this work, once assembled, weighs 450 kilos. Its gracefulness bears witness to the incredible craftsmanship of the Lyon crystal works. The bénitier was offered as a gift to the Empress Eugénie at the Universal Exposition in 1867. Disassembled and then entrusted 3 years later to the national collections, it has only now found its forgotten majesty. It's magnificent. Beautiful.
Is it going to work?
Oh, yes, it already does. It's now time for the Emperor to come on stage. Napoleon I this time, revisited by Eugène Guillaume, the official and very neoclassical sculptor of the Second Empire. The life-size statue needs to find its rightful place in the exhibit, or more precisely, its rightful height, at least as seen through the eyes of the curators.
Have we got it in far enough? Is that far enough?
Yes, it's good.
But it's lacking class somehow. A pedestal would have been prettier. He looks tiny in his little nook. It's because it's a little squished in there. How far is it from the black base to the red skirting there?
That much more? That much more would put his head a bit higher, wouldn't it?
No, back up. He really looks too short in that alcove. That's completely different from the effect we see in the painting. What can I say? There, he's majestic. Here, he's way too close to the ground. All the same, why don't we go take a look in storage to see if we can't find him a pedestal?
Tu tiens, Mathieu? Ouais, c'est bon, je tiens. On va essayer de faire son départ.
The artists of the period didn't await imperial conquests to seek out inspiration in the New World. Other subjects, other faces.
Be careful because the turban's really tilted.
As with this bronze sculpture of a former slave by Charles Cordier, entitled Nègre du Soudan au visage de bronze.
Straighten it up. No, you're not tilting it enough. Take it off, we'll reposition it. Let's have a look at the photo.
We know nothing about the model, other than he was a tam-tam player in Alger. Cordier, inspired by his subject's innate nobility, and in spite of his lack of wealth or power, gave him the imposing bearing of an emperor with a crown of marble and onyx.
No, the other way. Tilt it even more. There you go, that's good. Looks good there. Is it resting on the ear? It's good, it's on the ear. It's good for me. For me too. Erase that little mark on the side. Wait a minute. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Your knees. Bend your knees. Good. Slide it to the side now.
The poet lovers will be taking part in the next voyage. They are heading back to the Luxembourg Museum in Paris for an exhibit of the works of the painter Fantin Latour. Here he has captured the dreamy expression of Rimbaud already elsewhere in his mind, and the desperation of Verlaine.
The Orsay Museum is undoubtedly one of the biggest lenders in the world. We are contacted by museums from all around the world and lend out 1,200 to 1,400 artworks per year to important exhibits made up from works from different sources. The second type of exhibition is one that we call Outside the Walls, in which we create shows entirely from our own collection. In these cases, we've either been contacted by a museum in another country, or it is we ourselves who have pitched a complete program that showcases only works from Orsay. It's a product we package, an overall concept that includes the artworks, the catalog, the text, and all the educational materials. It's truly a complete package that allows us to create some substantial revenue, money that has been well used in recent years to undertake some of our major restoration projects here. For example, we get requests when a new museum is about to open, or when there's some sort of extraordinary event taking place. They decide they want a prestigious exhibit, which often makes them think of the Impressionists. And when they think Impressionists, they think of the Orsay Museum. Among our foreign visitors, first come the Americans, second are the Japanese.
It's time for a summit meeting on the 5th floor of the museum in the Impressionists Gallery. The president of the Nikkei Index for the Tokyo stock market has come to Orsay to discuss an ambitious exhibition project in Japan.
Japan has had a passion for Impressionism that's been going on for 30 years, so it's much more than just a fad. It has permeated their culture and continues to grow.
While the president of the Nikkei Index is already savoring the idea of welcoming Orsay masterpieces to his country, downstairs in the storage areas, crews are busy at work. They are closing up the last crates for a big exhibit in Seoul. The Koreans are the third most frequent visitors to the museum, just after the Japanese. The stakes for the upcoming show are high. This third visit of Orsay artworks is now part of a package of official cultural exchanges between Korea and France. The growing sophistication of the Korean public allows curators on both sides to make some bold choices, to go beyond the most iconic of Orsay's works, and allow the Koreans to discover new ones, whether they be by the old-school academic painters or by the modernists. Entitled The Aesthetic Worlds of the 19th Century, the show in Seoul will include 70 paintings and 50 drawings from Orsay's collection.
It's an absolutely wonderful experience putting together an exhibit from the Orsay's collection, because what makes a museum and its artworks magic is how their regrouping together under the same roof creates dialogue between the works. And an outside show allows us to finally free ourselves from the encyclopedic framework we have here. And it's the new confrontations between works that we thought we knew, precisely because we work alongside them every day and have loved them for years, that give birth to new things. Family-like relationships between artists that we hadn't seen or understood before. For example, because we were too used to the usual artistic categories we work with.
Amongst the works being boxed up for shipping, one counts a bit more than the others. The Norman Milkmaid, crate number 43 by Jean-François Millet. Millet is the preferred painter of Korean visitors to Orsay, according to the number of connections on audio guides when gazing at the originals of The Gleaners or The Angelus.
The exhibits we send out internationally raise the question as to our relationship with original artworks, as we can easily imagine that these well-known pieces, given the difficulty and the expense involved in shipping, could more easily be presented through books, or even very high-definition pictures, for example. Nevertheless, the philosophy of art and ultimately our relationship to the great masterpieces is that we want to be face-to-face with the original, because there's something somewhat transcendental about that. I think that's at least a small part of the reason why people travel thousands of kilometers to come to the museum.
Among the different artistic movements of the 19th century, the term pompier, literally meaning fireman, and characterizing an exuberant and often excessive academic style, comes to the forefront. William Bouguereau is one of the best examples of artists in the category, and an entire room of the museum is now dedicated to his works. Perhaps not a revolutionary turn of events, but a turning of the page nonetheless. Wait, there are three on one side and only one on the other. On Dennis's side. While very much appreciated by American collectors, Bouguereau was looked down upon in France to the point where, when Orsay first opened, only one piece of his, The Birth of Venus, was included in the collection. When his inheritors gave other works to the museum in 2010, the question was raised about the relative value of different artworks. Kitsch or not kitsch?
It's true that it would have been hard to imagine having a room just for Bouguereau 30 years ago. It's also partly due to how our visitors' tastes have evolved. They're much more open-minded today about this kind of painting. Nowadays, we're less locked in an ideological battle than before, with the bad guy Academy painters versus the avant-garde heroes, all against a political backdrop. For a long time, we considered the academic works to be bourgeois, even reactionary, and that they had to be pushed aside in favor of the Modernists' work, thought to be revolutionary, a more popular style of painting. But that political side of the debate has itself been pushed aside now.
On the side of the modernists is Édouard Manet's Déjeuner sur l'herbe, Luncheon on the Grass, a revolutionary take on the academic motif of outdoor bathers. It was considered so outrageously audacious at the time that it provoked a chorus of virulent criticism. Once again, a question of taste. The painting is one of Orsay's biggest stars, and today it is being followed by a French TV news camera as it makes its way to join the Second Empire exhibition.
C'était l'inverse, oui, en 63. Exactement. Oui, oui.
Yes, it's up.
Superbe.
Superb. Just beautiful.
Ça fonctionne très bien avec le reste.
It really fits in well with the rest of the room, so I think we've met our goal.
L'objectif est atteint.
And when will it be going back to its regular space?
Au mois de janvier.
In January, about 4 months from now. It will go back to the permanent collection. But it looks really good here, so we're going to leave it like that for a while.
A key moment in the history of art plays out at this exact point in the exhibition. This room, with artworks hung all the way up to the ceiling, mirrors both the way in which the paintings were displayed at the official Salon of 1863, as well as a controversy that made a lot of noise at the time. 6,000 works had been submitted by different artists that year, but the Salon only accepted half of them, sending many angry artists back to their studios. Amongst them, Édouard Manet and his Déjeuner sur l'herbe. To put an end to the revolt of these revolutionaries of taste, the emperor made a very generous gesture and created a Salon of the Refused.
Napoleon III's personality is very interesting here because he shows himself to be very open-minded in his relationship to the arts. He decides that, in fact, both schools could be presented and that the two salon visitors could be left to decide what was good and what wasn't, when the jury was right to refuse such and such a work and vice versa. His was a vision that accepted that popular taste and public opinion also have their place in the world of art. However, Napoleon III's personal taste can be seen here right behind me. This is the Venus done by the painter Cabanel, one of the works purchased by the emperor at the Salon for his personal collection. So while we see someone who is very broad-minded when it comes to organizing the Beaux-Arts, here we grasp the very conservative nature of his own preferences. His purchase is of a painting depicting an idealized nude woman in a mythical setting, Venus emerging from a wave. It's clearly a manifestation of the conservative bourgeois tastes of the time.
Ultimately, the laudable idea of creating a parallel salon was turned upon its head. The bourgeois public did indeed show up in force to see the works of the refused, but not out of curiosity. They came to make fun of the art, to laugh out loud in front of the Déjeuner sur l'herbe. The Orsay train station is superb. It resembles a fine arts palace, wrote the painter Édouard de Taille at the time of its inauguration in 1900. Quite the prophecy. But Orsay is more than a jewelry case. It is a fantastic example of an architectural style that has become symbolic of the collection's time period. The glass roof above the Grand Hall is itself a masterpiece of railway artistry. Seemingly weightless, its double skin, as they call it here, is held aloft by a massive metallic structure weighing almost 12,000 metric tons, an achievement worthy of Gustave Eiffel. A few small openings in it allows access to the 1,600 casings that make up the central artery's ceiling walls, casings attended to by teams of acrobatic technicians, dangling 30 meters above the museum floor. Their mission is more important than it might seem. Hidden behind these reinforced plaster casings are 40,000 small captors that regulate the acoustics of this immense echo chamber. Altogether, they help maintain an intimacy for those exploring the museum's rooms, but also contribute to bring music to life when Orsay decides to host one of its memorable parties. The Second Empire exhibition has kept its promise to celebrate the splendor of a period long decried as superficial and even decadent. But the beauty and the rarity of the 440 pieces assembled here offer, more than anything, the chance to experience anew the unique eclecticism of the period. Amongst the visitors, Monsieur Daniel Acouf, contributor to the Art in France during the Second Empire exhibition held at the Grand Palais in Paris in 1979, several years before the opening of the Orsay. He is visibly pleased by the renewed interest in the period.
What is surprising when you read the visitor's book are all the wonderfuls, magnificents, and muy bonitos. We certainly weren't reading that back in 1979 when the reactions, notably in the press, were quite violent. People really found the art of the Second Empire atrocious back then. So much so that they couldn't understand why we would even do a show on it. Whereas now you can feel a collective interest and a shared pleasure. It is surely thanks to the creation of the Orsay Museum that the public now better understands the period. In '79, we didn't make much of an effort to create a setting for the works. That wasn't the way we did things back then, whereas here the Second Empire atmosphere has been reimagined by the decorators.
Alongside the refined ambiance of the exhibition, a more frontal experience awaits the visitors. To watch a live performance by the restorers of the Women of Gaulle, not only outside, but even inside its glass cube. No more than 5 or 6. I love doing this. It's a unique occasion for the public to stand face to face with the women of Gaul, above whom hovers the shadow of the emperor. Napoleon III was passionate about the Gauls, and he saw in this theme a way of uniting the French through their history. Here, the Gallic women are pushing their husbands to rebel against the Romans during their conquest. Practically speaking, the women, after killing their children, you see, there's one who has killed her infant with the blood running down. There's another one who is stabbing her daughter with a knife in the neck. So all these women are going to commit suicide after exciting the Romans, pushing their Gallic husbands to rebel. And this collective suicide is supposed to be the pinnacle of heroism.
Ça te va comme ça? C'est parfait? Tout était calculé. Tout était calculé.
A new arrival at Orsay, a painting by Dominique Papetit, the masterpiece of an otherwise unknown artist from Marseille. Its title is a promise in itself, Dream of Happiness. The happiness is all Orsay's with this grand format. It has been lent to the museum for 5 years by the Musée Vivenel in Compiègne in exchange for its restoration. The time has come to find a spot to hang it, hopefully not too far from the Gracious Dancers by Degas. The Musée d'Orsay is insatiable, and to the good fortune of its visitors, it never stops acquiring new works, constantly enlarging the scope of its collection, making it more complete and ever more prestigious. Patience and time. Spencer Hayes and his wife Marlene, freshly decorated with the Legion of Honor by President Hollande, have finalized the donation of their art collection to the French nation.
Did you have a good weekend?
A very good weekend.
That was amazing.
We had a wonderful dinner with your president.
Yeah? Was it nice?
After years of detailed negotiations, 600 works of French art, including many masterpieces, accumulated year after year by this American couple, will become part of Orsay's permanent collection, an exceptional event in the life of a museum.
We certainly have wonderful Matisses and Modiglianis, but what we really love is the navvies. And we felt like that the navvies belonged in the Orsay Museum, our collection.
Is that paintings you really like around here you can show us?
These are Radon. Radon was about 20 years older than Bonan and we are.
After responding to a journalist's questions, it's now time for Spencer Hayes to seek out, however briefly, an intimate moment with this museum that he knows so well, and to imagine the great works of his collection entering into the dance of the permanent collection at Orsay, as they make their way to their future home in a brand new space that will be dedicated to what the Spencers call their French passion. The newly included works by Vuillard, Bonnard, and the other Nabis will make Orsay's collection of this key movement in art history the biggest one in the world. Dream of Happiness will finally be back for the public to see, spreading the message that its painter wished to express in his day one of an ideal society, an upending of the faraway echo of the decadence of the Romans. Dreams, like reality, belong to the artists who seize them, and, as if an homage to all those who work in the shadows of their masterpieces, giving a part of themselves and their passion. At the bottom of Dream of Happiness, a restorer of the painting from another time wrote his name right next to the signature of the painter.